I want to thank you for answering all our questions, well, some of our questions, and telling us more about the Liberal Catholic Church. I was wondering what your attitude is to people who've been in other churches, maybe Christian churches, coming into your services, into the Liberal Catholic Church Mass.
I'm always very comfortable and very pleased that other people would like to come into our services. And the Liberal Catholic Church has a policy, if you like, a very strong intent that welcomes everybody who approaches the altar with a sincere heart. So that's really the criteria that the Liberal Catholic Church has, with a sincere heart, regardless of their background, regardless of their history, and regardless of whatever particular spiritual tradition they follow. So it's a policy, a practice of great openness and welcoming. Some people are not necessarily familiar with the ceremonial actions that are performed in a Eucharist, for example. Some people are very familiar, but everyone from the church's side, from my personal side, is very welcome. And then often people who are not familiar with the Eucharist, we invite them to stay on for extra discussions. Then we can start to explore what the actual Eucharist means and what the great power and influence it can have in people's lives.
But what about if people can't really accept all the sort of teachings you offer? What if they don't have the full faith or beliefs in it all?
I'm very much aware of the limitations of my explanations to people. When you strike a chord in the heart of other people, it's a meeting of two hearts and two minds. It doesn't always happen. Different people, when they're conversing, have to be on what we call the same wavelength. It's rather unrealistic to expect that everybody is on the same wavelength when it comes to spiritual ideas. People start where they are, and I'm very much aware of that. So when I'm giving explanations, I spread my explanations into as many topics as possible, contemporary topics, historical topics, as many topics as I can, and then looking for, in a response from people, the start of a recognition of their journey, a start of an awareness and understanding to appreciate what's being said. So this is an ongoing process with people, with anything, with any topic, learning anything, getting an understanding of another person. It goes on all the time, but particularly in the area of spiritual understanding and people gradually starting their path on a spiritual path, let alone progressing on the path. I'm very much aware that there's many different ways to express things, and not everything I say is really going to mean much or anything to a particular person.
But you'll welcome them back.
Always welcome them back. Their hearts are ever restless till their hearts are really find the place. Their hearts are ever restless till they find their own place.
But what about people from other religions? You know, I myself have found a lot to gain from Buddhism. So if somebody who proclaims to be a Buddhist comes along, do you welcome them?
Yes, of course. The Buddhist spiritual information, message, and practices are very profound, full of wisdom. Everyone can learn from what Buddhists have got to say. All religions are expressions of the people from their side, It tunes in to their culture. You'll often find a religion in a different culture just is perfect for that culture. Christianity is the Western expression, but the insights of Buddhism illuminates a lot of what Jesus is recorded to have said in the Gospels, and also illuminates what's said in other spiritual traditions. So people from other faiths, other religions, other ideas, or no particular ideas at all, they're always welcome.
And where or when do you have the opportunity to discuss the ideas?
I have the opportunity in the small sermon that I give in the middle of the Eucharist to tease out the spiritual truths and learnings of the Sunday in particular. For example, today is the third Sunday on Trinity, and the intent, that's really the message that resonates on this day, God as ruler of the angels, gives me an opportunity to talk about God as a ruler in the universe, and then how the angels fit into that plan. So that's an opportunity. Also afterwards, there's an opportunity. There's also a lot of literature which is available. Some of it's a bit old-fashioned, but the truths and learnings are just as profound. And there is material that the clergy use called the LCIS, Liberal Catholic Institute of Study. That holds also a great deal of information.
A friend of mine in the Anglican Church says that the Liberal Catholic Church intents don't match the intents for each day and each Sunday in the Anglican Church. What has happened there?
This is often the case. Our intents don't always match the Roman Catholic Church as well. But in broad terms they do. In broad terms, the selection of, the division of the church year to the first half of the year, having most of the really important ceremonies, starting with Advent and then into Christmas, and then finally concluding with the Ascension. Then the second half of the year with the Trinity Sundays, where we start to put into practice the things that we've been thinking about, that we've been talking about, we've heard about in the first half of the year. So the actual intents are put together, in our case, by our founding bishops, but being mindful probably of the Catholic tradition as well as the Anglican tradition. And perhaps ours have stayed the same, and perhaps the Anglican ones have moved and shifted. But it's not that so much of a significant thing.
Thank you very much for answering our questions.
My pleasure. Come next Sunday and ask some more.